Hello, hello, and welcome to this very special episode that I am so excited to talk about because it's one of my favorite subjects. And I say that not always meaning that this is a happy subject or this is an easy one or something that a lot of people don't struggle with. But I think that it's so important and we need to be talking about it and bringing apart and bringing to light what many of us struggle with so that we know that we're not alone. So today we're talking about how we perceive ourselves, our bodies, that self-image, self-confidence, talking a little bit about body dysmorphia, just really diving deep into how we see ourselves when we look in the mirror. And so to begin with, there is kind of a spectrum. This is just a general thing that I've kind of thought of in my own. If you walk into a room and there's a mirror and you look in that mirror and you're like, oh my gosh, I look amazing right now. This is my color. I look so happy. I'm so excited to see where I'm at right now because I've worked so hard or whatever the case may be. That's a 10. That is where we should all strive to be. I think that, even if you're like, oh, that's a little bit like too far, it's still like it can be such a good space to be where you're just at peace and high frequency, happy with the way that your body looks. On the other side of that spectrum is, one, I don't always count zeros. So one is like you see that mirror and you are just utterly disgusted, self-loathing, like just so frustrated and annoyed with yourself, how you look, picking apart every little detail, all of the what you perceive as a imperfect part of your body and just ripping it apart. And so this is a spectrum that I want to kind of reference a couple times while I'm talking in this episode, because there are going to be times that it's okay not to be a 10. And there's going to be times that you might not realize that you are showing up as a 1, 2, or 3. And that is how we can start working on more self-love, bettering our relationship with ourselves and our bodies, and really finding those ways to like elevate those numbers for us in different ways. It's not just a one number, one scale, one way of looking at this. It's multiple layers. There's different aspects of it. If you're getting ready to go out to a really awesome concert and like you put a lot of effort into your look that day, that is going to be a different experience when you look in that mirror than it would be if you just rolled out of bed. So you see what I'm saying? There's different time frames and different parts to the puzzle here that we are going to look at. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my experience, my backstory, and then we'll kind of go more into some of my thoughts about today's episode. So I grew up with beauty magazines. I grew up with TV, comparing myself to these celebrities. Like I grew up, in like the 90s. I was born in 87. So the culture that I was watching was perfect in my mind. The Britney Spears, the Rachel from Friends, like these gorgeous, beautiful women that were so far from what I looked like. And I thought there was no way I could look like them. Not only just that they had less body fat than me, but also that they just had features that were naturally beauty and gorgeous. And I'm over here like, well, look what I got, all these imperfections. I sat there and really picked apart my body from an early age, an early teenager's age frame, where I would everything from my pinkies being a little bit crooked to this spot on my face where I picked a pimple when I was a baby. Not a pimple, chicken pox. I have a little scar on my nose, and it's just was so embarrassing to me. I thought everybody was looking at that. Like everybody was looking at my teeth and the gap and the crooked teeth I had in elementary school. And it really, really like affected me on an everyday basis. Like I would try to overcompensate in other parts of what I could control. I was a kid, so I didn't have money. So I couldn't go out and buy like the best clothes. I couldn't go out and buy amazing hairstyles or nails or anything like that. But I did try what I could. And it just was a constant struggle. So if we look a little bit deeper into my experience here, which may be similar to what you went through, where did that come from? Like, we can't blame it all on the media. We can't blame it all on what I was watching. We can't just throw it into one bucket. It was really just a perfect storm of multiple things. It was the comments that were made by my other family members, whether they realized it or not. My dad telling me about how he was a redheaded man. When he was a kid, he had glasses. And so he was made fun of for having glasses and for being a redheaded boy. Like, we think about that right now and we're like, why would somebody, that's not something to like make fun of, like, yeah, in a funny way, maybe, but like, because kids make fun of everything. But I mean, that's such a silly thing, but it had built in my head, seeing that he got bullied and made fun of for his appearance. I never got made fun of for red hair because I was a girl and I didn't have glasses. And so I then got braces later and nobody ever made fun of me for braces. And so there was all this perceived idea that somebody was going to make fun of me for these things and they didn't. So we had to fill that void with something else, right? We put it onto my weight. And so I am not here to sit here and talk bad about my parents or like anything else, but I'm recalling and sharing with you parts of my experience, not to say anything bad about them, but to just build this story. When I was about 13, 14 years old, my dad said to me point blank, "You are overweight." And that one comment in my entire childhood, my entire upbringing, seared into my brain like no other. And so overweight isn't even a mean term. Like, it is just a medical standard, but it's not like he called me fat or something worse, like a cow or something. I don't know. He just was concerned about me and wanted to make sure I was healthy. Was there a better way to say it? Absolutely. But that's what come out for him. And so hearing my mom struggle for years and years after having kids, saying that, oh, this baby weight, I'm overweight, just kind of talking about herself kind of down about her weight, and seeing it in other family members, grandparents talk about it, like, it was around, that was what had built my thought process. And I'm going to share something with you guys. The other day, yesterday, my 5-year-old comes up to me and I was eating avocado toast and he's like, "Mom, you are fat." And I was like, "Well, that's not nice to say, honey." And he was like, "Well, no, you're not fat." And he's like wiggling my arm to see if it moves. And I'm like, "Honey, we need to talk real quick. Like, we don't ever talk about how much, fat somebody has. Like, that's not a nice thing to say." And like, I didn't go so deep into it because he's 5. I just wanted to set that boundary, be like, we don't talk about that. But like that, kind of set off a couple of alarms and triggers in my body where I was like, kids, they say the darndest things, but where does it come from? It comes from something that they perceive to be true. So as I am raising a almost 12-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old boy, I want my children to both really love and care for their bodies. So I want to make sure that they are growing up hearing good, positive self-talk and good, positive feelings about my story. And so while I'm sitting here sharing you guys some of my background, I want to share with you how I was able to turn it around, because I'm sure some of you are sitting there exactly in that position and don't know what to do to get out of that spot. How do you get out of that trap where you can't stop looking in the mirror and hating on your body? So going back to my story, I went through high school, really struggled with all of that, and then I joined the Army. In the Army, there are set standards. You have to weigh this much if you are this age and this height. And if you don't weigh that, you are going to get tested for body fat percentage. And at that time, during my time of service, they would measure you in 3 areas: your neck, the smallest part of your waist, and the largest part of your bum. Now, there is science in this, but might not have been the best way to do this. for women, there is a ratio that we should look at, the difference between our waist and our bottom, our butt, because we should carry more weight in our butt than we do in our waist. And if it's vice versa, it could be an indicator of something that's going wrong in your body, a hormone imbalance, something with insulin resistance, whole nother topic. But if you are concerned about that, go ahead and seek a healthcare professional. But there would become this number from checking your body fat percentage. And again, going off of your age and all of these pieces, it will tell you if you busted your allowed body fat percentage, and then you would be what's called a flagged. And then you couldn't get any promotions, you couldn't go and leave, you couldn't get awards or anything like that. So you are a bad soldier if you weigh too much or if you have too much fat. So people who are very muscular would somehow get away with this because they have really big necks. Now, think of 5 people you know that are of 5 different ethnic backgrounds. Do they all look different? Do they all carry weight in different parts of their body? Think of 5 people of the same ethnic background. They all look different, but there are true differences in, say, African-American women and Hispanic women and women of other indigenous like backgrounds. And it is mind-boggling to me that they would put everybody into such a box, right? And say, if you don't fit in this box, get out of here. We don't want you. So I joined the military and was put into this standard. And thankfully, I thank God every day for this, I met my husband really early in my military career. And so I just had to keep and impress him. But I fluctuated a lot in the military with my weight up and down. We'd go on a deployment and I'd lose some. We'd come back from the deployment, I'd eat all the Doritos and not work out. And then I gained some. And then I went to a weight loss clinic, and then I went to like extreme measures. I did this at the completion of my 6 months postpartum from my daughter. I did a 5-day diet that consisted of like vegetables one day, fruit one day, lean meat and tomatoes one day. It was called like the GMC diet. It was crazy. So I did some really drastic things, like a lot of colon cleanses and things like that, harsh, insane things to my body. And man, I would lose a lot of weight, look really good. And then I would gain a lot of weight and like hate myself. And so my version of self-love and self-worth had so much to do with my weight. Like I would know that I was a good human being. I was a good friend. I had good values, like all these things. I knew that. I was confident in that. But man, I felt like the world only cared about what I looked like and what my body weighed. So fast forward to having my son 5 years ago. At the time that he was born, I was the heaviest that I'd ever been. And that just killed me. And the whole time I was pregnant, I was like, this is my last pregnancy. I'll lose it one of the same ways that I always did, starvation of some sort, cutting out sugar, cutting out carbs, like, something. But it did not come off even after giving birth. Like he was an 8-pound baby and I only lost 12 pounds. And I was like, isn't there supposed to be a lot more that comes out? And so it was a big setback in any sort of self-love that I had done in all of those years. And I felt like I was at rock bottom. Months after he was born, and I had started trying to work out again. I was struggling with milk supply. I was a breastfeeder. And anytime that I would try to cut back on something, my milk supply would lower down. And of course, you need to eat really good, if you're feeding your child. But it was just so hard on me to feel like I wasn't producing what I should for him, and that I was never going to be able to lose this weight. So I thought, let me see if I can try to exercise. Well, I had a lot of joint issues, and stepping off of a curb would set my SI joint on fire. I had an injury. I've had 2 falls where I hurt my tailbone and I hurt my SI joint. And so anytime that I'd get out and try to walk or run, it just was awful. And I had done physical therapy and I'd done all these things, but you know what? I was chronically inflamed. And I also had all this extra weight. Like it was a vicious cycle, like how I need to lose weight to help my joints, but I can't exercise because my joints hurt. And I also had really bad acid reflux and heartburn, and this nothing was helping that. And so it was this moment, falling in my kitchen onto the floor, not falling, sitting down on the floor in the kitchen, just crying because I was just trapped. I was trapped in this body, and I hated it. And it wasn't fair to my kids. And I just didn't know what else to do. So my story is not going to be the same as everybody else's. And there was no one thing that I can sit here and say is the magic path for everybody. But for me, I made a decision to try something different. And it started with like a protein shake. And so putting that in my body didn't aggravate my heartburn. And it gave me some nutrients that I was struggling with in other ways. I also decided to cut out meat and cut out dairy. And so I was bringing away some of those inflammatory type triggers. And I was putting in a different kind of protein, something that was very basic. So it wasn't aggravating that fire that was going on in my esophagus. And I aligned myself with a community of people, complete strangers, that were very positive and uplifting. And so that kind of like storm of what had happened really blossomed something in me. And I took just a complete leap of faith. I jumped out into the deep end with this just to see, like I had nothing to lose, just to see what would happen. And so I opened up to these people and I tried new things, and I started signing up for like listening to self-help podcast. So you're doing good listening to this. And I went to like a Tony Robbins seminar, and I started reading books, and I started journaling, and I started trying new things, like, and just kind of letting go of what other people would think of me. Because what if, heaven forbid, a Becky from high school saw me drinking a protein shake, or she doesn't believe in breath work because that's for woo-woo people, or, like I just finally, like for the first time, just like stopped caring. And that's like the key to all of it, right? Like, everybody who says like, oh, the time that you figure out how to like not care what other people think, like your whole world changes, but nobody tells you how to do that. Nobody tells you this is how you stop caring what other people think. They just say do it. Like you can just flip it off. Like it's some sort of light switch. You can just be like, ding, I don't care no more. No, it's like a constant practice. I still practice every day. I get stuck into little loop cycles that's like, oh my gosh, like all these people hate me. I just moved across the country. And so I'm sitting here like looking at all the people that I know in this state, like afraid that they all hate me. Like it's a constant practice. Okay. So like give yourself grace. And if you can do something that scares you, like post a picture on Facebook of your whole body and just say something nice and positive. It doesn't even have to be about your body. It could just be like, I really love looking at the sunrise every day when I bring my kid out to drop him off for the bus stop. That's something nice and positive. You are associating a positive thought with your action that your brain is going to potentially tell you these people are going to judge you and judge your body and judge what you look like and blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, last time I saw her, she was 10 pounds lighter. Like, who cares? Let that go and just post it. And that whole like start before you're ready, like fear is what is that acronym? Like, I can't even think of it, but like just have that action, right? So little things like that will start to build that muscle. This is a complete new pathway in your brain from cell to cell that you've never exercised before. It's a muscle that's never been used. It's a pathway that's never been walked on. And you need to walk that path one foot in front of the other to wear it down so that it becomes a new pathway. And so whatever you can do to be systematic in your way of like taking care of checking that block each day so that you can work on that pathway. And so Maybe it's a daily check-in with my scale that I said earlier, that 1 to 10 scale. If you walk into your bathroom 5 times in the day to go pee, 10 times, whatever, every time you look into that mirror, you give yourself a number, or one time that you walk in the bathroom throughout the day. Maybe not the first time when you first wake up in the morning, or like, after you do something like work out or whatever, but like one of those times when you walk into the bathroom and you look in the mirror and you're like, I'm going to give myself a 6 right now. Keep track of that. Go write it in your notebook. I was a 6 today. I was a 4 tomorrow. I was a 7. Then I was a 9. Like, you are conditioning yourself to take note and be self-aware of where you're at with your body. And then maybe you'll start looking for those little special things about you. Like, I am thankful that I can wear nice earrings in my ears because it looks nice on my face. Like, that may seem like nothing, right? Like, earrings are earrings, but that's a step. That's a step in the right direction. It's a positive thing to say about your body. Maybe you are glad to have a good sense of smell. Like, some people can just smell things really well. Maybe you're thankful for your eye color. Maybe you are glad that you don't have something on your body like skin tags. I don't know, like, nothing wrong with skin tags. I'm just using that as an example. And be mindful every time that you can to say something positive about where you're at. And that's exactly what I did. So as I'm trying to give you that question that we said earlier, like, how do we do this? I'm trying to give you some true pointers. And if you think it's going to happen overnight, I want you to write that down on a piece of paper. Say it's going to happen overnight. I want you to write it on a piece of paper. And I want you to get a big black Sharpie and I want you to cross it out and cross it out. Then crumple up that piece of paper. And then I want you to light it on fire and then accept it. It's not going to happen overnight. So you have to do it one day at a time and give yourself realistic goals to go off of. Like, in the next 30 days, I'm going to do a 30-day challenge of like keeping track of one nice thing I said about myself each day and doing something that is nourishing to your body. Maybe it's, I'm going to put on like a nightly lip mask every night so that you can soften your lips. Maybe you want to take a little bit better care of your feet. Maybe you want to do some more water in your diet every day. Like, maybe you want to add more healthy fats. So see if that helps with your complexion. Maybe you want to, like, I don't know, I could come up with a million of these ideas, you guys. And so I'm trying to give some variety in case you're like, I ain't gonna do that. So I hope that this gives you some hope that it could change for you, that you could learn to go from a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or 5 or 6 and get up to that 8, 9, 10. I'm not going to say you're always going to be a 10, but if you could walk into that mirror and find, overall, I'm probably like a 7 right now, but you know what? My eye makeup is a 10 today. Or you know what? I've been working really hard on my biceps, and I would say that my biceps are an 8 and they maybe used to be like a 4, really celebrate those wins. And if you need somebody to celebrate with, hi, I'm here for you. I will celebrate you and get so excited over the smallest things. I promise. It's one of my specialties. I feel like I have to mask and hide my excitement. I let a little bit out last night when I was talking to a friend. I was like, I'm so excited. And I'm like, don't be too excited, Sadie. You might scare her away. And she's like, I'm so excited too. And I was like, okay, we're so excited together. So I promise it's okay to celebrate yourself, and I will celebrate with you. And if you need a troop or a tribe or like a group of people, I promise there's groups out there. It's just sometimes going blindly and finding a Facebook group or a meetup group or whatever, and just putting yourself out there. What have you got to lose? They don't know you. Sometimes strangers will absolutely celebrate you and support you better than your loved ones. Riddle me that. I don't know why, but it's definitely something to look into. So Fuel your body, good nutrition, things like that. I'm always going to promote that. Fuel your brain with good positive thoughts as best that you can. Listen to podcasts, listen to like daily affirmations, whatever, journal, all thing kind of. I did publish a journal. It was a while ago now because this episode isn't coming out, but it's a swear word one. So if you are interested, go on my Amazon. So after that, you will start to see a difference. So I'm cheering you on. I'm proud of you. I'm here for you. And if you're struggling with body dysmorphia to the point where you cannot get past it, go seek some professional help. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you again soon.